My mother called me on a Tuesday morning, laughing so hard she could barely finish a sentence. You're not going to believe what your sister did. I was making breakfast for my 16-year-old son, Noah. What now? She used the college savings account to book a resort week in the Bahamas for her kids.
I stopped stirring my coffee.
Which college savings account?
Mom laughed again. The one you started years ago.
Your sister said Noah wasn't going anywhere special anyway.
I looked across the kitchen.
Noah was reading a college brochure. He had spent months saving for application fees, carefully choosing schools he could afford. I asked Mom, how much did she take? Enough for a very nice vacation.
My voice stayed calm.
Does Noah know?
No.
Why ruin his morning?
Something inside me went completely still. That account had been funded by me, not my sister.
I had created it after Noah's father left, depositing every bonus and tax refund I could spare.
I opened my laptop. The account balance was nearly empty. Then I noticed something else.
A reservation confirmation sat in my email.
7 nights.
Luxury resort.
Private ocean suite. 4 travelers.
And every charge was connected to my account. I stared at the screen.
Then I picked up my phone.
There was one number I needed to call. I called the resort reservation number listed on the confirmation.
A woman answered.
Good morning, Paradise Cove Reservations. I need to cancel a package under the name Melissa Carter.
She typed.
One moment.
I waited.
Then she asked, Are you Melissa?
No.
Then I'll need authorization from the primary guest.
I smiled.
That's exactly why I'm calling.
She hesitated.
Can you explain? I funded the entire package.
Silence.
Excuse me? I'm the account holder whose money paid for it.
She asked for verification. I provided every detail connected to the payment.
After a few minutes, her tone changed. Ms. Bennett, I can confirm the payment originated from an education savings account. Correct. And you're requesting cancellation? Yes.
May I ask why?
Because the funds were intended for my son's education, not my sister's children's vacation.
Another pause. Then she said something I hadn't expected.
There's a problem.
My stomach tightened. What problem?
The package has already been modified. By whom? The guest contacted us yesterday and upgraded the reservation using additional funds.
I stared at the kitchen wall. How much?
Approximately $14,000. My sister had not simply taken Noah's college money. She had added more expenses to it. I thanked the agent and ended the call. Then my phone rang. It was my sister. Her first words were cheerful. Guess what? The kids are finally getting the vacation they deserve. I looked at Noah's college brochure.
Then I answered.
We need to talk.
Melissa sounded confused.
What's wrong? You used Noah's education account.
She laughed.
Mom told you? She didn't need to.
There was silence.
Then Melissa said, It was just sitting there. It was for college. Your son has plenty of time. He starts applying this year. He can get scholarships.
I closed my eyes.
You knew that money wasn't yours.
Melissa's voice sharpened.
Mom said you were doing fine financially. That doesn't give you permission. You always have to make everything difficult.
No.
You made the decision.
She sighed.
Look, the kids have been looking forward to this.
So has Noah. For college.
You can replace the money.
I almost laughed. Can you?
What does that mean? It means I'm not replacing anything.
She became quiet.
Then she said, You wouldn't cancel their trip. I already did.
Her breathing changed. You what?
I canceled the reservation.
You can't.
I can. That trip is non-refundable. Apparently it is when the person who paid disputes the charge.
Melissa started crying.
You're ruining everything. I looked at Noah sitting across the room. He still had no idea what had happened. I'm protecting something.
What?
My son's future. I ended the call. 5 minutes later, Mom called.
Her voice was no longer laughing.
You need to reconsider. I asked, why?
She answered quietly.
Because Melissa says she has proof you gave her permission.
My stomach dropped.
Proof?
I asked. Mom said, she has a message from you.
I never gave permission. She says you did. I opened my messages and searched Melissa's name.
There it was.
Months earlier, she had asked, "Can I use some of the money temporarily?"
I had replied, "Not without talking to me first." That was the entire conversation. I sent it to Mom.
"Does that look like permission?"
Mom went silent.
Then she said, "No."
I opened the account records. The withdrawals had not happened all at once. Melissa had moved small amounts over several months. 2,000 here. 3,000 there.
Then larger transfers. She had probably believed I wouldn't notice. But there was another name attached to one transaction. Mom.
I called her immediately.
"Did you help Melissa access the account?"
She hesitated.
"I gave her information." "What information?" "Your old security answers."
My hands went cold.
"You knew she was taking the money." "I thought she would replace it." "She spent it."
Mom started crying.
"I didn't think it would become this serious." "It became serious the first time she touched Noah's money." I contacted the bank and filed a formal fraud dispute.
Then I called an attorney. Before the meeting, Melissa sent me a message. "You're acting like I stole from you. We're family." I stared at those words. Then another message arrived.
"If you make this legal, I'll tell everyone what you did to Mom."
I read it twice. For the first time, I realized this wasn't only about the money. Melissa was hiding something. I called Melissa.
"What did I supposedly do to Mom?"
She didn't answer.
"Melissa? You know what you did."
"No."
"I don't."
She hung up. My attorney reviewed the account records. The withdrawals were undeniable. So was something else.
Melissa had used part of the money to pay an old debt connected to Mom.
I confronted Mom. "You knew?" She looked exhausted.
"I owed Melissa money. So she took Noah's savings to cover it. She said she would replace everything."
"How?" Mom lowered her eyes.
"She expected you to eventually forgive her."
That sentence hurt more than the money. They had both counted on my silence.
My attorney helped me notify the bank, the payment processor, and the resort. The disputed charges were placed under review. The resort canceled the vacation and froze the remaining reservation benefits. Melissa's children were not told why.
That part mattered to me. They were innocent.
Then I contacted the college savings administrator. Because Melissa had accessed the account using information Mom provided, the institution opened a full investigation.
2 weeks later, I received the preliminary report.
Nearly all the missing funds were traceable. And one transfer stood out. It had been sent directly to an account controlled by Melissa's husband.
I looked at the amount. It was larger than the entire resort package. I called my attorney.
"There's something you need to see."
He studied the statement.
Then he said quietly, "This may have been planned much longer than you think."
My attorney traced the larger transfer. It had been made 6 months earlier.
Melissa's husband had used the money to cover a business loan.
I stared at the document.
"They weren't taking money for a vacation."
"No," my attorney said.
"The vacation was just the most visible part."
The Bahamas trip had been booked afterward. It was meant to make the spending look ordinary. I felt sick. I called Mom one final time. "Did you know about the business loan?" She cried before answering.
"Yes." "Did you know they were using Noah's money?" "I knew they needed help."
"You knew?"
"I was afraid Melissa's marriage would fall apart." "And you are willing to let my son lose his future?"
Mom had no answer.
I ended the call.
That evening, I sat with Noah. He was still researching colleges.
I told him there had been a financial problem, but I did not make him carry the family drama.
"I'll fix it," I promised. He looked at me. Did I do something wrong? My heart broke. No.
Then why does everyone keep taking things from me?
I pulled him into my arms.
They won't anymore. The bank eventually recovered a significant portion of the funds. Melissa and her husband were required to repay the remaining balance through a legal agreement.
Mom apologized. I accepted the apology, but I did not restore the old boundaries. Melissa asked me to forgive her. I told her forgiveness could exist without access. She looked at me quietly. Then she asked,
"So you really won't trust me again?"
I answered honestly.
"Not with what matters most." The following year, Noah received his first college acceptance. He called me from his bedroom, shouting, "Mom!" I got in. I ran upstairs. He was holding his laptop with both hands. I hugged him so tightly he laughed. The education account had been restored enough to cover his first year, and I had rebuilt the remaining balance myself. It had taken months. Extra work. Fewer vacations. A lot of careful budgeting. But every dollar felt different now. It belonged to his future, not someone else's luxury. Mom eventually visited. She brought Noah a handwritten letter. He read it privately. Later, he told me she had apologized without making excuses. I think she means it, he said. I hope so. Melissa never came inside our house again without asking. That boundary was intentional. Months later, the resort agent called me. She remembered the cancellation. I just wanted to let you know something, she said. What? The package you cancelled was eventually sold to another guest. I laughed softly. Good. She laughed too. No ocean suite for anyone who didn't pay for it. I thanked her. Then I looked at Noah's college acceptance letter on the refrigerator. That was the real vacation I cared about. A future. A choice. A life he could build without owing anyone an apology for having opportunities. And for the first time, I realized something. I had not cancelled a vacation. I had cancelled the idea that family meant permission to take whatever they wanted. On Noah's 18th birthday, we sat at the same kitchen table where I had first learned about the stolen money. He opened a small box. Inside was a simple keychain engraved with his college initials. He smiled. I'm keeping this forever. I laughed. You'd better. Mom was there too. She looked older than I remembered. Melissa had sent a birthday card but respected our decision not to invite her. Noah read it and set it beside his plate. He wasn't angry anymore. He simply understood. That was enough. After dinner, he asked me a question. Mom, do you regret canceling that trip? I looked at him. Not for 1 second. He smiled. I think I would have hated going anyway. Why? Because it would have been paid for with something that was supposed to be mine. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. That sentence told me he understood everything. The Bahamas had been beautiful in the pictures. White beaches, private suites, luxury dinners. But none of it mattered. My son's future was worth more than a week in paradise. And when I think about that phone call now, I remember the agent asking, "Who are you?" I had smiled because I finally understood the answer. I was the mother who funded her son's future. I was the person who said no. And I was done letting family confuse generosity with permission.